was a long time ago, longer now than it seems, in a place that perhaps you've seen in your dreams. For the story that you are about to be told began with the holiday worlds of old. Now, you've probably wondered where holidays come from. If you haven't, I'd say it's time you begun. For the holidays are the result of much fuss and hard work for the worlds that create them for us. Well, you see now, quite simply that's all that they do, making one unique holiday especially for you. But once a calamity ever so great occurred when two holidays met by mistake.
For many, the holidays are a time of celebration, a time where family and friends can come together and rejoice in what they all share in each other's lives. It's a festive season where tinsel is strung, Christmas trees are prepped, and twinkling lights adorn every corner. Not surprisingly, Disney brings this charismatic spirit to their theme parks every year. Each of their parks celebrate the holidays in different ways, but in this special tribute, we'll look at how Disney transforms one of their classic yet decrepitly dark attractions into a full-blown winter wonderland of Christmas splendor. In essence, Haunted Mansion Holiday introduces the bizarre and quirky characters from Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas and mixes them together with elements from the Haunted Mansion. As many of you know, the Haunted Mansion is a watershed attraction in Disney's history, so it must have taken much courage and gusto to make the decision to change it to a distinctly unique experience for nearly a quarter of the year. The idea of transforming a highly regarded Disney attraction into a holiday experience didn't start with Haunted Mansion Holiday. In fact, other beloved attractions such as Country Bear Jamboree and It's a Small World had already seen holiday incarnations before Haunted Mansion Holiday ever arrived, in the form of Country Bear Christmas Special and It's a Small World Holiday. Disney's initial plan was a retelling of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, but that was dropped because the novel was set in London, whereas the mansion was located in prime New Orleans real estate. Other ideas had Santa Claus visit the mansion, but this idea presented a thematic conflict between the atmospheric tone of the attraction and the introduction of Santa. Although that plan was dropped, the general concept attracted Steve Davison of Walt Disney Creative Entertainment to further explore the dichotomy between the two holidays. Davison and his team carefully analyzed several storyline possibilities for the conversion. Ultimately, it was decided that Jack Skellington from Disney's 1993 stop-motion animated film The Nightmare Before Christmas would serve as the key character for the combination. The storyline as it now goes is similar to the main storyline from the film, where Jack takes on the role of Santa Claus, or as he calls him Sandy Claus, and attempts to bring Christmas cheer to the Haunted Mansion, Halloween Town style. What follows is a medley of spooky Christmas decorations and festivities taking over the grounds of the traditionally eerie Haunted Mansion. Now that the Imagineers had settled on a story, they now had the task of bringing that story to life. Several important figures were selected from the film and carefully placed throughout points in the attraction. Such pieces included the pumpkin scarecrow from the beginning of the movie, the countdown to Christmas clock, the maniacal man-eating Christmas wreath, and the iconic snow-capped mountain from the movie's finale. One challenge that existed was the voice artistry. Not the voice actors from the film, mind you, in which case Chris Sarandon, Catherine O'Hara, and Ken Page did reprise their roles as Jack Skellington, Sally, and Oogie Boogie respectively. The voice actors that instead posed a challenge to Disney were the original ones from the Haunted Mansion. As a way of weaving the film's characters with the attraction's characters, Disney had to re-record some of the incumbent characters' dialogue. Unfortunately, Paul Frees, Leota Toombs, Eleanor Audley, Thurl Ravenscroft, along with most of the other actors, had since passed away, turning the mission of recording new dialogue far more ambitious to undertake. Eventually, Disney sought out contemporary actors which were of closest resemblance to the originals. Celebrated voice artist Corey Burton assumed the role of the ghost host from Paul Frees. Suzanne Blakesley, who had taken over the roles of Disney villains Cruella de Vil, the Evil Queen, Maleficent, and Lady Tremaine, took over the voice role of Madame Leota, while Leota Tomb's real daughter, Kim Irvine, portrayed the psychic medium's physical likeness. One of the most ubiquitous features of Haunted Mansion Holiday is its annual tradition of showcasing a gingerbread house during the attraction's ballroom scene. Each year, Disney's creative team designs a gingerbread house with a different style that represents that year's theme. Past designs have included a house for Jack's dog, Zero, a gingerbread carousel, Oogie Boogie's roulette wheel, and a gravestone house, among other eccentric designs. In 2012, Jack Skellington's home served as inspiration for the mansion's 12th gingerbread house design. Haunted Mansion Holiday had its debut on October 3, 2001, to crowds full of fans of the Haunted Mansion and Nightmare Before Christmas, who were all eager to see how the Imagineers brought the world of Halloween Town to this corner of Disneyland. The opening was attended by the film's director Henry Selick, and video greetings by creator Tim Burton and composer Danny Elfman. Haunted Mansion Holiday was met with a glowing reception from fans and guests alike, not to mention the subsequent crowds that have often become so large that Disneyland management began to employ the attraction's normally dormant FastPass system. In 2003, the attraction received some notable changes. Oogie Boogie, the villain from the film, was introduced in the ride's finale. The original soundtrack, composed by Gordon Goodwin, was replaced by a score recorded by John Debney, who based it off Danny Elfman's original score from the film. The attraction's success sparked plans to bring Haunted Mansion Holiday eastward to Walt Disney World. However, Disney World management decided to abandon the overlay, and all the duplicated props were transferred for use at Tokyo Disneyland's mansion. The seasonal holiday overlay opened there on September 15, 2004 as Haunted Mansion Holiday Nightmare. Just like the rest of the Disneyland Resort, the exterior of the Haunted Mansion is decorated in Christmas galore, which is entirely influenced by The Nightmare Before Christmas. Hundreds and hundreds of jack-o'-lanterns are situated all around the mansion, each one carved with a different face. Inside, the same can be said for the decor. The most notable addition is in the stretching room, where, instead of the mansion's former residents, the hanging portraits reveal some of Halloween Town's notorious residents. When the ghost host concludes his narration, Jack Skellington's face appears, covering most of the ceiling. Paul Frees' original ghost host is completely replaced by Corey Burton's narration. Fundamentally, the ride is exactly the same as a traditional Haunted Mansion. Guests still visit every part of the mansion as they would normally do. The only change is in the appearance. Each scene of the ride is given a holiday twist. The endless hallway features Jack's ghostly dog Zero as opposed to a floating candelabra. Madame Leota recites a twisted version of the 12 Days of Christmas Carol. The ballroom scene is now a Christmas party, complete with presents sitting underneath a tree, and the Imagineers' annual gingerbread house placed in the center of the dining room table. When the passengers reach the graveyard, audio animatronic versions of Jack and Zero are there to greet them in place of the frightened caretaker and his dog. The singing bus are now talking jack-o'-lanterns, which are continually tuning out familiar songs such as What's This and the mansion's original Grim Grinning Ghosts. Overall, the graveyard scene is a spirited menagerie of Christmas and Halloween. All sorts of odd creatures pop out of presents as opposed to from behind tombstones. Pumpkin angels tower over guests as they travel past mountains peppered with glowing pumpkins. Leaving the graveyard, guests come across an audio animatronic Oogie Boogie who is spinning a roulette that determines which of Jack's ghostly presents will each vehicle encounter in the attraction's Hitchhiking Ghost finale, a role which is taken over by his naughty accomplices Lock, Shock, and Barrel. Before disembarking the attraction, a tiny Sally bids the passengers farewell. Haunted Mansion Holiday has been in existence for only 12 years, but its relatively short presence has had no ill effect on its fondness by Disney fans and guests, many of which consider it to be the cornerstone for holiday events at the two parks. Even Tim Burton, the creative source for The Nightmare Before Christmas, has experienced the attraction a few times. The answer as to why this seasonal attraction has such a stronghold on guests is most likely due to the circumstances it came about from. A classic Disneyland attraction meets an otherworldly classic Disney film, and the final result is a triumphant explosion of creativity, imagination, and wonder. As Jack Skellington once vividly put it, "The sights, the sounds, they're everywhere and all around. I've never felt so good before. This empty place inside of me is filling up. I simply cannot get enough."